This video is about she was just old man until a philanthropist gave her a fortune. If this story inspires you, please like the video, share it with loved ones, and write in the comments how it touched your heart. In the heart of a bustling city, nestled between high skyscrapers and trendy cafes, there stood an unassuming little park. To the casual observer, it was just another green patch, but to its frequent visitors, it was a sanctuary. This park was home to an old man named Harold, whose silver beard and twinkling blue eyes held an entire world of stories waiting to be told. Harold had lived in this park for as long as the community could remember. He was a fixture, a silent observer of life's unfolding drama. Each day, he would sit on a weathered bench, shrouded in his patched-up coat, a beanie perched atop his thinning hair, holding a small cardboard sign that read, "A little kindness goes a long way." To many, he was just an old man, to others, a storyteller, a sage, or perhaps a mere beggar. They passed him by in their hurried lives, barely noticing the gentle smile that accompanied his kind eyes. However, those who stopped to linger, even for a moment, would hear tales of adventure and wisdom that danced through decades of experience. One chilly afternoon, as the leaves fell like whispers from the trees, a well-dressed woman named Clara stumbled upon Harold. She was a successful philanthropist, known for her charity work and her passion for uplifting others. Clara had been racing through the city, her mind occupied with deadlines and meetings, when she noticed Harold. Something about him drew her in. "Hello there," she greeted, her voice warm and inviting. Harold looked up, his smile wide. "Good afternoon. What brings you to this little corner of the world?" "The hustle of life," Clara replied with a chuckle. "And a need for some fresh air, I suppose." They talked for hours, sharing stories of resilience, dreams, and the unexpected beauty of life's struggles. Harold spoke of his youth, of dreams that once soared high but had been clipped by circumstances beyond his control. He had fought wars, both external and internal, and had lived through losses that carved deep lines into his heart. Yet there was a light in his spirit, a flicker of hope that refused to be extinguished. "I always find a way to embrace the present," he said softly, his voice filled with warmth. "Every day is a gift, you see. Even the hard days teach us something." Clara felt an unusual connection to Harold. His words resonated deeply within her. She had dedicated her life to giving back, but in that moment she realized how essential it was to truly listen to the stories of those she aimed to help. Days turned into weeks, and Clara made it a ritual to visit Harold. She had learned that he once had a family, a lovely wife named Margaret who had passed years ago, and a son who had left home seeking his own path. Harold's story was woven with heartache, yet it was also a tapestry of resilience. "Life has a funny way of leading us where we need to be," he mused one day, gazing out at the park filled with children playing. "Even in our loneliness, we find the strength to rise again." Clara was inspired by Harold's resilience and began to invite him to her charity events. His presence added a genuine warmth to each gathering, and those who interacted with him felt a spark of hope ignite within them. Harold became a beloved figure in Clara's network, reminding everyone of the beauty of kindness and the power of connection. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Clara found herself sitting next to Harold on their favorite bench. It was at that moment she knew she wanted to do something significant for him. "Harold," she began, her voice trembling with excitement, "I want to help you in a big way. You deserve so much more than this park." Harold chuckled softly, brushing a hand through his beard. "Clara, my dear, I have all I need right here. These moments with you, the laughter, the stories, they are treasures. But what if you could have a home, a place filled with your memories, a garden where you can cultivate your stories?" Clara's eyes sparkled with hope. Harold paused, his heart swelling at the thought. "You are a kind soul, Clara, but I've long since learned that happiness finds us in many forms. I am content." Yet Clara's heart wouldn't let it rest. She believed that Harold was worthy of more than mere contentment. After many sleepless nights, she crafted a plan. She would raise funds, not just for him, but to support those like him, those who had faced life's harshness but still held the beauty of humanity within them. As autumn turned to winter, Clara organized a grand gala. She poured her energy into it, reaching out to influential friends and community members, sharing Harold's story and the importance of compassion in a world that often overlooked the vulnerable. The night of the gala arrived, and the venue sparkled like the stars in the night sky. Clara stood at the podium, her heart racing as she spoke about Harold's journey, not just his struggles, but his unwavering spirit. She invited Harold to share his story, and he stood before the crowd, his hands trembling slightly. "Thank you for gathering here tonight," he began, his voice steady. I am but an old man, but my life has been rich with experiences that have taught me the value of kindness. We all have stories to share. Let us lift each other up." The audience was captivated, tears glistening in their eyes as they absorbed his words. Clara watched as people began to open their hearts, pledging support and donations. The room resonated with a newfound sense of purpose, and it felt as if the human spirit was glowing brighter than ever before. As the evening came to a close, Clara felt a wave of gratitude crash over her. They had raised enough money to provide Harold with a small home, a sanctuary where he could create a new chapter filled with warmth and memories. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Harold, but for the community that had rallied around him. When Clara approached Harold with the news, his eyes filled with disbelief. "You've given me so much, Clara. I don't know how to thank you." "Just keep being the incredible man you are, Harold. Your story is one of hope, and your kindness will ripple through the lives of many." In the weeks that followed, Clara and Harold worked together to transform a small house into a warm abode. They painted the walls a soft shade of blue, and Clara helped him build a garden where he could plant flowers and vegetables, nurturing life once more. As they toiled, they shared laughter and stories, Harold teaching Clara about the plants, and Clara sharing her dreams for her philanthropy. Each brick laid was a testament to resilience, to the belief that every person, no matter their past, has the potential to inspire. Through their journey, they established a community project, an outreach program that would bring together people from all walks of life, encouraging them to share their own stories. They called it the Garden of Stories, a place where individuals could plant seeds of hope and watch them flourish. In their first year, the program blossomed beyond their wildest dreams. People came from all over, sharing their experiences, their struggles, and their triumphs. The garden became a sanctuary of laughter and healing, a reminder of the beauty of human connection. As Harold looked around at the faces filled with hope, he knew that his life had changed in ways he could have never imagined. He had gone from being just an old man to a beacon of light for a community hungry for inspiration. And so, the old man who had once been cast aside found his purpose, surrounded by love and kindness. He learned that even the most fragile among us have the power to build something beautiful from the ashes of despair. Little by little, through the garden of shared stories, Harold and Clara nurtured a community that thrived on resilience, inner strength, and the unwavering beauty of the human spirit. Hope was no longer a distant dream, it was blossoming right before their eyes, rooted in the kindness that connected them all. As winter began to fade, heralding the arrival of spring, Harold found himself standing at the doorstep of his new life. The little house Clara had gifted him was more than just walls and a roof, it was a testament to kindness and the strength of human connection. Each morning, he awoke to the soft warmth of sunlight filtering through the curtains, illuminating not just the space around him, but also the hope in his heart. One crisp morning, Harold stepped outside, embracing the fresh air filled with the scent of blooming flowers. Clara had helped him set up his garden with meticulous care, ensuring it was a vibrant reflection of the beauty that had blossomed in his life. As he knelt beside a row of freshly planted tulips, he felt a sense of purpose surge through him. "Good morning, Harold. Ready for another day of adventure?" Clara called out, a playful smile dancing on her lips as she approached, a basket of gardening tools in hand. "Always, Clara. It's amazing what a little dirt under the nails and fresh air can do for the soul," he replied, chuckling softly. Clara laughed, a sound that seemed to brighten the corners of the garden. "And think of all the stories we can grow along with these plants." Harold nodded, his eyes twinkling. "Every plant has a story, just like every person. Some take longer to bloom, but when they do, it is magical." As they worked side by side, planting seeds and tending to the budding flowers, their conversations flowed freely. They discussed everything from the intricacies of soil composition to profound life lessons learned in quiet moments. The garden was becoming a sanctuary, not just for Harold, but for those who would gather to share their stories. However, not everything was smooth sailing. The outreach program, the Garden of Stories, had been met with some skepticism. Not everyone in the community believed that sharing personal narratives could spark change. Some looked at Harold and Clara's mission as naive, fearing it couldn't combat the harsh realities faced by many. One evening, as they prepared for an upcoming community meeting, Clara expressed her concerns. "What if people don't show up? Or worse, what if they come and mock us?" Harold paused, sensing the weight of her uncertainty. "Clara, remember when we first met? I was just an old man with a cardboard sign, but you listened. We have to trust that others will hear us, too. Every heart has a story yearning to be told." "I know, but it is scary to put ourselves out there. Every flower pushes through the soil to reach the sun. We must be brave too." With renewed determination, they moved forward with their plans. The evening of the inaugural meeting arrived, and Harold stood at the front of the small, cozy room they had rented. The walls were adorned with posters depicting the beauty of sharing stories, images of flowers, and words of encouragement. Clara sat near the front, ready to support him as he shared his journey once more. "Welcome, everyone," Harold began, his voice steady but filled with warmth. "Tonight I want to share a story, not just mine, but ours. We all carry burdens, joys, hopes, and fears. When we gather and share, we cultivate understanding." As he spoke, he could see faces soften, eyes glistening. Vulnerability in his words began to break down the walls that surrounded many of his listeners. By the end of the evening, people were sharing their own stories, tales woven with heartache, laughter, and resilience. Afterward, as people mingled, Clara caught a woman named Lisa standing apart from the group. She had come in silence, eyes cast down, not ready to share her own narrative. Clara approached her gently. "Hi there, I am Clara. Would you like to share your story? We'd love to hear it." Lisa's voice trembled. "I don't know if it is worth sharing. I've made so many mistakes. Every story is worth telling. It is what makes us human. Our struggles shape us, but they don't define us," Clara replied softly. As the weeks passed, the garden began to flourish, just like the story shared within it. People from all walks of life came together, finding solace and strength. Some came to share their joys, while others sought healing from their pains. Harold often found himself in the midst of these exchanges, a gentle guide encouraging others to embrace their narratives. One balmy afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Harold noticed a young man sitting alone on a bench, his head in his hands. He approached carefully, knowing that sometimes all it took was a quiet presence. "Hey there, friend. You seem troubled. Want to talk?" Harold asked gently. The young man looked up, his eyes filled with tears. "I don't know where to start. Life feels so heavy right now." "Start wherever you feel comfortable. I can listen." As the young man began to share his burdens, Harold listened intently. He spoke of lost dreams, family struggles, and the weight of expectations. When he finished, Harold softly said, "You are not alone in this. We all carry our own burdens, but together, we can share the weight." The young man looked at Harold, hope flickering in his eyes. "Do you really think that sharing can help?" "Absolutely. It is not about erasing the pain. It is about finding strength in vulnerability. The garden we're recreating is a place of healing." With each conversation, Harold witnessed the transformative power of kindness. He saw smiles blossom where once there were frowns, and laughter replaced the silence of despair. Yet, challenges continued to arise. Some community members resisted the idea of vulnerability, believing it to be a sign of weakness. They argued that survival meant toughening up, not sharing emotions. One evening, a heated discussion erupted during a community gathering. "Why should we waste our time talking about feelings?" the man shouted, his voice brimming with frustration. "We need to focus on getting things done." Harold took a deep breath, sensing the tension mounting. "I understand your perspective, but what if I told you that sharing our stories fosters resilience? It builds a community where we can uplift each other." The man crossed his arms, unwilling to budge. "That is all good in theory, but life isn't about feelings, it is about survival." "Survival is important," Clara chimed in, stepping beside Harold. "But healing is essential too. We cannot thrive if we're bottling everything inside. When we share, we create connections that make us stronger." Gradually, the community began to see the merit in Harold and Clara's mission. Over time, skeptics evolved into supporters, coming to understand that sharing stories was not a weakness but a powerful tool for growth. As spring turned into summer, the garden flourished, vibrant and alive. The outreach program grew, drawing more participants each week. People began to come not only to share their stories but to find sanctuary within each other's experiences. Laughter echoed through the garden, and Harold often found himself sitting among a group of strangers turned friends, sharing tales under the open sky. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant colors, Clara approached Harold as he tended to the flowers. "You know, I never imagined we would create such a beautiful community." "Neither did I, but look at us, we've grown together. Just like these flowers," he replied, gesturing to the vibrant blooms surrounding them. "We really have. I think we've planted seeds of hope that will continue to flourish long after we're gone." Harold smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. "And that is the beauty of it, Clara. Each story shared is a ripple in the fabric of humanity. Together, we're recreating a legacy of kindness." Their journey had not been without struggles, but each challenge had only fortified their resolve. Together, they had transformed not only Harold's life but the lives of countless others, proving that kindness and resilience could pave the way to hope and inspiration. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Harold took a moment to reflect. He had gone from being an old man with a cardboard sign to a beacon of light in a community that had come together, united in their stories. And in that moment, he knew that the beauty of the human spirit could indeed rise from the ashes of despair, flourishing like the vibrant flowers in his garden, radiant with hope and life. One warm summer day, Harold stood in the garden, the sun casting a gentle glow over the vibrant blooms. The air was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine and the soft hum of bees buzzing from flower to flower. It was a day that felt like promise, yet beneath the surface, hidden challenges brewed. Clara approached, her hands full of fresh vegetables harvested from the garden. "Look what we've grown, Harold. Fresh tomatoes, zucchinis, and cucumbers. I can't wait to make a salad tonight." "Ah, fresh from our efforts. Nothing tastes better," Harold replied, his eyes sparkling with delight. "It is incredible how much life can spring from a little soil, water, and care." "Yes, and the stories that have bloomed here are just as nourishing," Clara said, glancing around at the garden. "But I am starting to worry. The outreach program is growing, but it seems some people are hesitant to come forward." "I've noticed that too," Harold replied, his brow furrowing. "Perhaps the weight of their burdens keeps them from stepping into the light. Many still carry the belief that vulnerability is a weakness." Clara sighed, her heart heavy with concern. "How do we help them see? What can we do to break down those walls?" "Let us invite them in with open hearts. We can create a special event in an open mic night, a space where anyone can share, whether it is a story, a poem, or even a song," Harold suggested, his voice steady with conviction. "That could work. We can call it Voices from the Garden, a celebration of shared experiences," Clara exclaimed, her excitement bubbling over. As they began to plan, the idea seemed to take root like the plants they nurtured. They spent days preparing, reaching out to community members, creating flyers, and spreading the word. Each conversation echoed with the hope of change, yet the doubts lingered in Clara's mind. "So, what if they don't show up?" she posed one night, her voice quivering with uncertainty. "What if no one wants to share?" "Then we listen. Every seed needs time to grow. Some take longer than others," Harold reassured her, holding her gaze. "Even if just one person finds the courage to speak, it will be worth it." As the evening of Voices from the Garden approached, a mixture of anticipation and anxiety filled the air. Harold and Clara decorated the garden with twinkling fairy lights, creating a warm, inviting atmosphere. The scent of freshly mown grass mingled with the soft fragrance of blooming flowers. On the night of the event, an unexpected rainstorm swept through as people began to arrive. Clara worriedly glanced at the dark clouds gathering overhead. "What if everyone cancels?" "Let the rain dance upon us. Sometimes unexpected storms bring the most beautiful rainbows," Harold replied, his optimism unwavering. As the first attendees trickled in, Harold welcomed each person with a genuine smile. Some faces were familiar from the garden, while others were new curious souls seeking solace. With the sound of raindrops gently tapping against leaves, Clara stepped up to the makeshift stage, her heart racing. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This is a safe space for us to share and connect. We're all in this together." The crowd murmured their agreement, the atmosphere crackling with anticipation. The first speaker was a shy woman named Alina, who had been a regular visitor to the garden. She stood nervously at the mic, her hands shaking but her spirit resilient. "I am not good at talking in front of people," she began, her voice wavering. "But I wanted to share something I've carried for a long time. I lost my mother to cancer 2 years ago, and I felt so alone. Coming here has helped me find a sense of family." As she spoke, tears flowed freely down her cheeks. Harold watched as the crowd leaned in, compassion radiating from their expressions. When Alina finished, a powerful silence enveloped the group, followed by applause that echoed through the garden. "Thank you, Alina," Clara said, her voice filled with warmth. "Your courage inspires us all." One by one, more attendees stepped up to share. A young man named Marco recited a heartfelt poem about loss and hope. An older gentleman named Frank shared stories from his youth, memories of love and laughter. Each story added to the tapestry of connection among them. Yet not every story was met with understanding. A man in the back, arms crossed and eyes narrowed, scoffed at the openness. "You think sharing your feelings will help you? Life is about grinding through. Get tough, not mush." Harold felt the tension rise, but he refused to be deterred. "Let us remember that it is okay to feel, it is okay to share. Strength is found in vulnerability, not just in silence." As the evening unfolded, the mood shifted from apprehension to acceptance. More people found their voices, and laughter intermingled with tears. Clara felt the warmth of the community embracing each other, realizing that the rain had not dampened their spirits but had added to the magic of the night. By the time the last speaker stepped up, a young girl named Mia, everyone was spellbound. She took a deep breath, her tiny frame trembling with excitement. I've been afraid to share, but I want to tell you all about my dreams. I want to be a dancer and make people happy. The garden erupted in applause as Mia twirled gracefully, her joy infectious. Clara felt a rush of pride wash over her. The magic of the evening was palpable. As the event came to a close, Harold stood up and addressed the crowd. We gathered here tonight not just to share our stories, but to remind ourselves that we are never alone. Each voice matters, and together, we create a symphony of hope. The audience erupted in cheers, gratitude echoing through the garden. Clara looked around, her heart swelling with joy. They had created something beautiful, a moment where vulnerability had transformed into strength. But as the crowd dispersed, Clara noticed the man who had scoffed earlier remaining seated, deep in thought. She approached him gently. I saw you didn't seem to agree with everything tonight. I'd love to hear your perspective if you're willing to share. He met her gaze, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. I've always been taught to toughen up. I thought sharing feelings made you weak, but seeing all of you tonight, maybe there's strength in connection. Absolutely, Clara replied softly. It takes courage to open up. Would you consider joining us next time? We'd love to have your voice as part of our garden. He nodded, a hint of a smile breaking through. I think I might. As the weeks rolled into months, voices from the garden became a cherished tradition. Each gathering nurtured deeper connections, and the garden blossomed into a sanctuary of stories. Yet challenges still arose. A few community members continued to resist the idea, believing emotional openness to be a sign of weakness. One evening, Clara and Harold sat in the garden, discussing how to reach those who still stood on the sidelines. Perhaps we need to involve local businesses, Clara mused. If the community sees that sharing stories can elevate us all, they might be more willing to join. Great idea, Clara. Let us host a story walk event an afternoon where local shops partner with us and people share their stories at each stop along the way, Harold suggested, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. Within weeks, they had arranged the story walk. Local shops displayed signs inviting customers to stop and share their stories. The path went through the garden and into the heart of the community, creating an interconnected tapestry of experiences. On the day of the event, people flooded the streets, intrigued by the concept. Laughter and stories flowed freely as participants moved from shop to shop. Clara watched, a sense of pride swelling in her heart. As they reached the final stop, an elderly woman named Grace nervously approached Harold. I've never shared my story publicly before, but I feel inspired to try. Your story is just as important as anyone else's. We're here to listen, Harold encouraged, his voice warm and inviting. With trembling hands, Grace began to speak, recounting her journey of love and loss, of dreams that faded but never truly disappeared. As she shed, tears glistened in her eyes, yet a sense of peace enveloped her. Thank you for giving me the space, she concluded, wiping her tears. I've carried this weight for too long. As she stepped down, the crowd erupted in applause, and Clara felt her heart swell with gratitude. Grace's courage had inspired many others to step forward, and their shared stories created a bond that was palpable. The story walk resonated deeply, and soon, neighboring communities began to take notice. They reached out, eager to replicate the magic Harold and Clara had fostered. However, as their outreach expanded, so did the challenges. Harold faced criticism from those who believed they were straying too far from their original mission. You were losing the essence of what you started. It's just about sharing stories now, one critic argued. Stories are just the beginning, Clara insisted, her voice steady. They create connections, understanding, and ultimately change. We're not just sharing, we're healing. Harold nodded in agreement. Every story shared can ignite hope, companion. The summer sun poured down on the garden, painting everything in warm hues of gold and green. Harold stood amidst the vibrant flowers, their colors a reflection of the blossoming community spirit around him. Yet, beneath the beauty of these days lay a heaviness that was hard to ignore. As the outreach program expanded, so did the expectations, the scrutiny, and the pressures that accompany their newfound success. One early morning, Clara joined Harold in the garden. She was a bundle of energy, her enthusiasm often contagious, but today there was a shadow lingering in her eyes. Harold noticed her troubled expression as he tended a patch of sunflowers. Good morning, Clara. Have you seen how the petals are opening? They'll be beautiful in a few days, he exclaimed, trying to brighten her mood. Clara offered a small smile, her gaze fixed on the ground. They are beautiful, Harold, But I am worried. With the story walk gaining traction, I fear we might not be prepared for the influx of participants. What if we can't meet their needs? Every flower takes time to bloom. We can only do our best and trust that the garden will grow, Harold replied gently, his voice filled with wisdom. But it feels bigger than us now, Clara said, her voice quivering. What if our efforts aren't enough? Remember, Clara, it's not about perfection. It's about the courage to share and connect. You've already created so much beauty here, Harold reassured her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. We will face challenges, but we will face them together. The upcoming story walk was a bold initiative, and its success could mean the difference between deepening their reach or fracturing under pressure. Clara and Harold had gathered a group of volunteers, and together, they spent the next few weeks planning meticulously, spreading flyers, and connecting with local businesses. As the day approached, Clara and Harold found themselves fielding questions and criticism from some community members who doubted the program's effectiveness. This is just fluff and nonsense, a gruff man named Tom said at a community meeting. You think sharing stories will magically fix our problems? We need real solutions. Every story shared holds the power to bring us together, Tom, Clara replied, her voice unwavering despite the hostility. Understanding each other is foundational for real solutions. Sharing brings about connection, and it is through that connection we find strength. Tom shook his head, dismissing her words. You want to change minds with hugs and feelings? Perhaps not, but we can open hearts, Harold interjected, his calm demeanor Obama amidst the tension. Change takes time, and it begins with understanding. We be planting seeds of empathy. The room buzzed with murmurs, and while some remained skeptical, others began to nod, considering Harold's words. As the meeting concluded, Clara felt a mix of frustration and determination. We have to prove them wrong, Harold. We have to show this community what we can do. We will, he replied, a sense of calm confidence in his eyes. Let us prepare the garden, show them that stories have the power to unite us. The day of the story walk arrived, and the garden was abuzz with excitement. Banners fluttered in the breeze, local businesses set up booths, and the scent of freshly baked goods wafted through the air. Clara stood at the entrance, greeting participants with a warm smile, but inside she felt butterflies swirling. Harold joined her, wearing his signature smile that could light up even the cloudiest of days. Are you ready, Clara? He asked, stepping beside her. I think so, but what if no one shows? Clara's voice wavered. Then we will cherish the few who do. Every voice matters, Harold said, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. As the clock struck noon, the first group of participants began to trickle in. Clara watched in awe as people from all walks of life came together, some with eager hearts while others hesitated, uncertainty etched on their faces. Harold welcomed each individual warmly, creating a safe space where vulnerability felt less intimidating. Welcome, I am glad you're here, he said to a young woman who seemed unsure. What is your name? Sarah, she whispered, glancing around nervously. Sarah, this garden is a place for all stories. Would you like to share yours? Harold encouraged her. I've never done anything like this before, she trailed off, her voice barely above a whisper. You're not alone. We all start somewhere, Harold replied, his kindness wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. Throughout the afternoon, the garden filled with stories of heartache, hope, and resilience. People shared tales of struggle and triumph, weaving a tapestry of human experience that resonated deeply with one another. Clara listened, her heart swelling with pride for everyone who found the courage to speak. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with vibrant oranges and pinks, the atmosphere shifted. Laughter echoed, and connection flourished. Yet, amidst the joy, Clara noticed Tom standing at the edge of the garden, arms crossed, his skeptical demeanor still present. Why don't you come closer, Tom? Clara called out, her invitation genuine. Not my thing, he replied, his voice gruff. It's just one story. That's all I ask. That might surprise you, she insisted softly. Tom hesitated, but eventually approached. Clara saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. Fine, but I am not promising anything. That's all we ask, Harold said, stepping forward. He might find it liberating. As the evening progressed, Tom found himself captivated by the story shared. With each tale came a glimpse of understanding, a break in the walls he had built. And then, unexpectedly, he stood up, clearing his throat. All right, I'll give it a try, he said, his voice steady yet hesitant. I grew up thinking showing emotion was weak. I've lost friends, family, I've carried their burdens alone, but tonight I see that I am not the only one. The crowd erupted in applause, their acceptance wrapping around Tom like a warm embrace. Clara felt tears prick her eyes, watching the transformation unfold before her. As the evening came to a close, Harold stood to speak. Tonight, we gathered not just to share, but to connect. It is through our stories that we find our strength. Together, we are creating a legacy of kindness. The crowd cheered, and Clara felt a rush of gratitude wash over her. They had created something beautiful, a space where vulnerabilities transformed into strength and connection flourished. Later, as people began to leave, Tom approached Clara and Harold. "I didn't believe in this at first," he admitted, his voice low. "But I see now. Stories matter. They bring us together." Clara beamed, hope filling her heart. "Thank you for joining us, Tom. Your voice is just as important as anyone else's." "I'll be back," he promised, a newfound determination glimmering in his eyes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Harold and Clara stood at the garden's edge, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky. "Look at what we've created," Clara whispered, awe filling her voice. "Yes, and it is only the beginning," Harold replied, his gaze steady. "Together, we have the power to inspire hope, to foster resilience, and to remind each other that we are never alone." In the days that followed, the momentum from the story walk surged. More community members began to engage, share their stories, and mentor one another, leading to deeper connections and understanding. Clara and Harold's garden became a sanctuary, a place where burdens were shared and compassion flourished. But amidst the success, challenges still lingered. There were moments when doubts crept in, when the weight of expectations felt heavy. Clara would often find herself questioning whether they could sustain the momentum. One evening, as they sat in the garden under a starless sky, Clara turned to Harold. "Do you think we can keep this going? What if it fades away?" "Every season has its ebb and flow, but as long as we nurture this garden, it will continue to grow," he said, his tone soothing. "Change is a journey. Every step we take is part of it." "You're right," she replied, a smile breaking through her worries. "We've created something special, and I believe we can cultivate it." Days turned into weeks, and the garden continued to thrive. Clara organized workshops that encouraged participants to explore their creativity through art, music, and writing. The garden transformed into a vibrant hub of expression, and the people who once hesitated now found joy in sharing their talents with one another. One afternoon, as Clara painted a mural on the garden wall, she noticed a group of children gathered nearby. They watched her intently, their eyes sparkling with curiosity. "What are you making?" the little girl named Lily asked, her head tilted in wonder. "A mural to celebrate our stories. Would you like to help?" Clara invited, her smile infectious. The children squealed with delight and eagerly joined her, splattering colors and laughter across the wall. As they painted, Clara shared anecdotes from the garden, encouraging the children to tell their own stories through art. "Every color represents a story," she explained. Together, they create something beautiful. As the mural took shape, Clara felt her heart swell with joy. She realized that the garden was not just a space for